Welcome to Colors of Life. With me in the studio today is a man of many parts. He's a pastor, a chartered accountant, and someone who believes fervently in the Nigerian dream. So do welcome with me, Pastor Ituah Ighodalo.
Thank you very much, Koko. Thank you for having me on your program.
Thank you, Pastor Ituah. The first time I remember meeting you, I'd heard of you. My sisters went to international school in Ibadan with you, so I heard of your name and all that. But we were maybe teenagers in, I don't know, late teens, early 20s at a party. And I saw you in the party with a drink in your hand, you know, just gliding around, cool, calm, and collected. And then fast forward perhaps a decade, I see you in church. So how has that happening guy, the toast of the ladies, the ladies' man, now become a pastor?
It wasn't by design. It wasn't what I planned for myself. It wasn't what I thought. It is how God takes you and decides on which trajectory he's going to take you. I just wanted to enjoy life, go here and there, make some money, do some philanthropy along the line, and just be a really big, serious businessman and just enjoy what we thought was life then. But of course, you go at life, life comes back at you, you go again, it comes back at you, and you suddenly realize that your assumptions, your parameters, your strategy is not quite working. So you have to somehow look for the person who understands the whole story and seek his guidance and advice. And that's how, through the help of my mother and her intercession, I found God. And I learned that that quotient is very important to get life to go the way you thought. Not quite the way you thought, but with a few adjustments to fulfill what God had in mind for you.
Interesting. Now, Pastor Ituah, you've talked to me about your passion for Nigeria. You believe in Nigeria. You're not giving up. Like right now, there's so many security concerns. Many people are just simply tired. We're fed up. People are discouraged. But you believe in Nigeria. Why?
Nigeria is a country for Nigerians and has to be built and fixed by Nigerians. People from outside cannot come and fix your own home for you. And I believe sincerely that Nigeria is not a mistake. You know, it's one of those errors of men that fits into God's vision, or God makes it all together for good. And Nigeria is truly, truly blessed. It has an abundance of things, even human capital, that's extraordinarily brilliant, one of which you are. Very, very brilliant people, creative people. It has 36 minerals that are equal to or perhaps superior to oil. It has vegetation that abounds. It has weather that is almost perfect. Enough of rain, enough of sunlight, not too hot, not too cold. And it has almost the whole trajectory of climates, from the mountains of Mambila to the deserts of Sokoto, to the rivers of Rivers State.
And Cross River.
And Cross River.
Now, do you have ambition to run for political office? Or if an opportunity presents, would you consider it?
I think that's the better way of putting it.
Okay.
If an opportunity presents itself, I would now consider it. In the past, I wouldn't have, because I thought my lane was business. Okay, now I found myself in really Christianity, and then to support and create leaders. But that has been a bit difficult, to create the right kind of leaders. And if the opportunity presents itself, and it's the right kind of opportunity, I will sacrificially be willing to serve in one way or the other. I just want Nigeria to be good.
So what do you think, what type of leaders or what qualities do you think we need in leaders for Nigeria to work?
I've said it before. One of my posts went a bit viral. The first thing you need as a leader is vision.
Okay.
You have to know where you are going. You know, you are leading people. You have to take them somewhere. We've not had many leaders who've had a clear vision. Most of them have been accidental leaders who just found themselves and they thought they were administrators and they tried to administer. Okay, but a leader must have vision where he's going. That's why Moses spent 40 years in the wilderness. He created his vision there. Number two, you must have passion and compassion for the people that you are leading. You must be part of them, each with them, understand their problems and be a problem solver. Number three, you must be fair to all because you are leading all. It's a tough one because there are many interests, but God must give you that wisdom and that discernment where you can be fair to all. That's why Solomon asked for wisdom. The fourth is that you must be, of course, hardworking. It's not easy to lead if you are lazy and thinking only of yourself and you want to rest. It's a 24/7 job. So you must be healthy, you must be hardworking, you must be up and doing. And then number five, you must be a good listener to the problems of your people. You know, you must have time. You can delegate and so on and so forth, but you must be a good listener. And then you must be a good team chooser or team picker and team player.
And team player, so important. Yeah.
Team chooser and team player, because you can't have all the ideas. So the job of a leader is to choose the right people for the right job and listen to what they're saying and take on their ideas. Some of our leaders today, they take everything to themselves. They appoint stooges to work for them, more or less, and the stooges have no idea. Okay, and therefore the guy is overburdened.
I know this is an area that is so dear to your heart, and we could go on.
I can go on and on. So.
We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're now going to talk about you as a person, the man, the pastor, the husband, the father. Thank you for staying with us in conversation with Pastor Ituah Ighodalo. We'll take a break now. Welcome back to Colors of Life, and to stay with me on my conversation with Pastor Ituah Ighodalo. I've heard you share about a time where you were so, frustrated that you thought of giving up on life. How come? What would bring a Christian to that point? Because, so tell us, how come? And how did you come out of that?
It's actually happened to me about 3 times.
Okay.
The first time was when I left Pricewaterhouse. I went into business with a good friend of mine. I won't mention his name. And that business fell apart. And I had nothing to my name except the house where I was living in. And for 2 weeks, I didn't go anywhere until somebody knocked on my door, my neighbor, Ade Alakija. And he says, "You're an accountant?" I said, "Yes, I think so." He says, "So what are you doing right now?" I said, "Nothing. I'm just resting." And he says, "Well, my brother needs an accountant. And I don't know if they're serious or not, but go and talk to him." His brother turned out to be Ade Alakija, and the company turned out to be ADC Airlines. So they gave me my first opportunity at starting an accounting practice, which I didn't intend to start. But prior to that, I was almost giving up. The second time, which people know more about, was I had just become a Christian. It was around 1994, 95. That time we were in Bible school together. And I became born again, I think, 93 or so, early 93, through my mother's intervention. I'd run my practice, I'd done well, but I was also gone into finance house business. And along the line, just as I became born again, within about 6 months, the finance house crash came and everybody lost money. You know,
yes,
that?
I remember that.
You remember that
era,
time?
yeah.
Even Freedom will the Lord benefited from
yes.
it. Because a lot of people who were running finance houses
now became pastors.
Now became pastors.
Yeah.
I was telling somebody a few days ago, our pastor in Chicago, our pastor in Baltimore, even Gandhi, they all went through that process where business was terrible and we all were exiled. Like in Acts of Apostles, when they wouldn't go anywhere and God caused problems.
Tribulations, and then they went to the ends of the earth with the gospel. Amazing.
That's one of the greatest moves of Redeem. You know? Even Agu didn't go through that problem, but he went through a career switch and career change and went into the ministry. And that kind of move, I don't know if you'll ever see it again. So I was one of those casualties.
Okay.
And things were so bad. They were throwing young men into prison. Even Taiwo Shinusi, he was even sharing with me his own experience at being detained in the police and all that. He too went through that experience. He's now pastor in Nashville. So many of them all over the place, you know. And I lost a lot of money. And if you know me, I prided myself in intelligence. I prided myself in not owing people. I prided myself in peace and sleeping well. So the thing kept telling me, you think you're smart, you're intelligent, you're a beggar, you're a loser of money. I had only 2 suits, which I wore for about 4 years. And one of them belonged to my brother Asri. My shoes had holes underneath them.
And no one would know because he always came out looking so clean and sharp.
I looked sharp, but it was just packaging.
Okay.
It was a really serious time in my 1.5 years. I didn't sleep. Then one day I was driving down the Third Mainland Bridge, and this thing said, "You're a useless man. You're stupid. You're foolish. You're finished. You'll never get out of this. I park your car and just jump over and end it all." So I told my driver to park. When I came out of the car, I looked at the water, and I took one leg. And as I was about to sort of go, something then said to me, "You fool, you will jump, you will die, and the people will go and visit your mom, and your mom will have to fry akara." You know, when people die in Yoruba land, they fry akara, and I'm half Yoruba. Okay. It was that akara that irritated me. That people will go to my mom, and she'll have to fry akara 8 days because Ituah died. I said, I won't jump. Wow. I said, I'll keep going and see where God will take me. So 2 things saved me. I'd just become born again around that time. Okay. And I'd stopped socializing and doing all the things that people used to know me for. And now this voice of God that said to me that that's a foolish thing to do. And lo and behold, 2 weeks later or a week later, I read in the newspapers, you know, and the other thing said, and your friends will be saying, how much did he owe? Why didn't he tell us? Exactly. We would have helped him. 2 weeks later, a pharmacist of Allen committed suicide. And the newspaper article said, his friends started saying, we didn't know he was owing so much money. Why did he tell us? He would have helped us. Then that thing said, that would have been
your story. And this gives us an insight into what goes on in the mind of people, especially men. You know, what drives men to commit suicide. Women, we find out mainly it's emotional issues. So what was the third experience?
The third experience, not quite to the brink of suicide, but majorly to the brink of frustration, depression, and giving up, was when I had to leave the Redeemed Christian Church of God about 12 years ago, because I'd put my heart, my life, my future, my being, everything into that work at Christ Church. And all of a sudden, without any notice, I was asked to leave. And I was confused, because every decision I took based on the work I was doing.
Why were you asked to leave?
It was because I was married before. I was divorced. I told the authorities I was divorced. They knew. They told me to continue doing what I was doing, and so on and so forth. And I assumed I wasn't allowed to remarry. And I was okay. So for about 7 years, I did the work faithfully. I didn't even consider remarriage until even senior people in the ministry then said to me, you can't continue doing all this work and be single. My ex-wife by this time had gotten married, had her children, and blah, blah, blah. So somehow they encouraged me. And I went and I got permission from the authorities. And I remarried. And I'd been remarried 2-3 years doing the work, when all of a sudden I'm told that that is now an issue.
How do we respond when we are hurt in the house of God?
The first thing is to calm down and take deep breaths. The second thing is to try and understand where those who hurt you are coming from. You'll find that most people are only simply trying to protect their own interests. And that's when I came up with the saying that you can't quarrel with a man who's trying to protect his interest. You just have to find how you protect your own or avoid being hurt. So they were trying to protect their own interests. I understand that. So once that understanding came, the hurt began to dissolve. And the third is to consult God and ask God, so what next? If you are patient enough, God will speak. And one of the best advices I got came from my brother and my friend, Fola Diola. The other day, somebody was saying, Alalaji gives a pastor advice. That's okay. Fola is my brother. He came to see me. In fact, the whole world came to see me at that time. Almost everybody called me or came to visit. And he sat with me for 2 hours, talking to me, encouraging me, telling me it's okay. And then he said, you know what, Ituah? You cannot do anything about what the world does to you or what people do to you. But you can do something about how you react to what they do to you. He says, Ituah, react and respond properly.
So, Pastor Ituah, you remarried for about 10 years, married, and then you lost your wife. How are you able to still go on? Because if my memory serves me right, which it does, I think I remember the day after you lost your wife, you still preached and you continued with your videos, morning devotions. How are you able to keep at it? Do you feel God has let you down, has hurt you, and you're still serving God? How?
Well, I'd been married 13 years. I'd known my wife 4 years before, so we were 17 years together, more or less as a couple. I didn't expect it. I didn't think it would happen. It was very sudden. My wife had been ill on and off, and we'd been managing whatever it was, but it wasn't, in my own opinion, life-threatening. So that morning, the call came at 2 a.m., and it was difficult to believe or understand, but somehow I knew it was true. So I looked up to God. I was in my room, and I said, God, so what do I do?
What did he say? Did he respond at that time?
Yes.
Okay.
He says, calm down. The first thing was, do I go to Port Harcourt? Because she died in Port Harcourt, and bring her back. Then the thing said to me, 12 hours to Port Harcourt, 12 hours back. You'll probably be dead by the time you come back. You can't take...
Because it was during the lockdown,
It was during the lockdown. There was no air. There was no... You had to drive. I'd even called my driver. At that time, we're going to Port Harcourt at 6 a.m. Can the car make it to Port Harcourt? He says, yes. Then something said to me, you drive 12 hours with that on your mind, you bring her back another 12 hours, then you will die. So he says, let them bring her to you. So I called the people, bring her now. So problem number one solved. So what do I do today? Let's do what you need to do today. Who do I call? Call this person, call this person, call this person. Finish. So I heard him, brought out my phone, and continued to respond to my text messages and be normal, because I knew exactly what to do. It was a long night, no doubt, but it wasn't too long. So I got up at 6:30 as usual, changed. The only thing I didn't do was I didn't wear my tie. I just wasn't in the mood. So I wore my suits, wore my shirt, went to the church. I was going to call my brother that morning. The thing said, no, you're just going to stress everybody. On your way to church, call him. So on my way to church, I called him. And I told him. He said, where are you? Where are you now? I said, I'm going to church. He didn't even ask me why or what. He said, okay. So I knew that I was doing the right thing. So I went to church, conducted the service, preached the message. And then on my way out of church, my brother had come to join me then. I was going to see my mother-in-law to tell her, because I didn't think she'd heard. Okay. And then on the way, I was going to call my brother-in-law and tell him. Before then, I wasn't going to talk to anybody. So,
and I know your brother and your late wife have the same birthday, don't
they? The same
they?
birthday.
Yeah. So you call them twins, I think.
Well, twins, 20 years apart, yes. And there was the funeral that day that I had given Biola, who had lost her son a day before the date.
Wow.
So the thing said, should I not? I said, why not? The thing said, go.
So you conducted that funeral.
Conduct the funeral and encourage the people. So I showed up.
Amazing, Pastor Ituah. There's just so much. And now you're left with two young children. We'll take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about you as a single parent, and then we'll talk about the church work and some of the other interesting things going on in your life. Thank you so much for sharing this. So stay with us for the conclusion of this amazing conversation. Thank you for staying with us. And now we'll conclude our conversation with Pastor Ituah Ighodalo, pastor of Trinity House, Lagos, chartered accountant, and someone who loves Nigeria passionately. Pastor Ituah, I know you do a lot of philanthropy, but let's just talk about the Heritage Homes Orphanage. What made you begin that work?
Well, when I became pastor in charge of Christ Church, Redeemed Christian Church of God, I knew that church was so confined and staying in a cage. And I'd worked with Pastor Tony. And Pastor Tony
Tony Rappo.
Tony Rappo. He had this large vision of how church should be governmental, blah, blah, blah. And
social reformation.
Social reformation and all
Both of you were in King's College, right?
Well, he was my senior in King's College.
Okay.
We became friends and running mates when I was doing youth corps. And it was in UI.
Okay.
So we were very close at that time. Then he went into Christianity, tried to drag me in. I refused at that time. Then finally I found myself in his church. So I became one of his people in the church because we'd been people together before the church. And we had all these ideas of how church should really take over the world. And I came to Christ Church with those ideas. Because prior to that, a lot of churches just play church, do vigil, do program, this and that. No impact.
Okay.
So I had a clear line of sight of all the things we wanted to do. We're going to run our church as a government. Okay. And we took over our local government in that Bagada area. Everybody knew us. We took over the police stations. We took over the schools. We redecorated the schools. We gave them chalk. We rebuilt them and so on and so forth. Then I said to myself, we needed to now do orphanages and things like that. And I called your sister, Eme, who at the time was believing God.
We've had her on this program and she's talked about the work. So,
yes. She was believing God for a child. And I said to her, Eme, you're going to run this heritage home. She didn't answer me. She thought I was very wicked. That she's believing God for a child. And then I'm telling her to run the show. But I had read scripture, you see. And I knew that in your area of pain will be your area of greatest influence. And if you did it right, God will respond to you one way or the other. I think that's one of the best things that's happened to her.
I believe so.
I think so.
And now you're a single parent and you adopted 2 children. Some Christians feel, if we adopt, we're saying that God is not able to give us biological children. And, some people don't believe in. So why did you go that route? And what would you say to people who are intending parents about adoption?
I'm a realist.
Okay.
I'm a very, very practical man. And I have faith and I believe in God, but I'm also a very realistic man. When I married my wife, she was a virgin. We tried for children. The children didn't come. I didn't put her under pressure for one day because I didn't marry her to be a baby factory. I married her because I loved her and I wanted to give into her life and help her become who God wanted her to become. So after a few years, no pressure. If God gives us children, He doesn't give us children. So we tried the IVF route, high idea. Like sometimes she paid for it and just informed me to show up. That didn't work. She got pregnant a couple of times. We lost the pregnancy. I made up my mind, I will not put her under any kind of pressure. I just wanted her to be who God created her to be. Then one day she woke up, she and Eme, again. And I think you were in that loop somewhere.
I think I was.
You were in that loop somewhere. She just woke up one day and said Eme called her. Koko said something, some child somewhere. She's going to rescue the child. And I said, go. So she went to rescue the child or something. Then she came back, squeezing her hands, and says, Ituah, let's adopt the child. I said, okay.
Just like that?
Just like that.
Wow.
I said, is that what you want? She said, that's what I want. I said, okay. Says, you don't want to meet the child? I said, no. You want to adopt her? You like her? No problem. I'll meet her when it's time.
And she shares the same birthday with her mom.
Very, very. That's how God works.
That is really
The issues was she had been born into the home. The mother brought her to the home. She was born on my wife's birthday. And I name all those children. Whenever a child comes to the home, they ask me for the name to give the child. So they said, this one was born on the 19th of July, your wife's birthday. So I said, call her Olajumoke.
And that's your wife's name?
That's my wife's middle name. They call her Olajumoke. And to be honest, I visit the children, but I didn't know her from anything. And I didn't even really ask to know her because I name children almost every week, every 2 weeks, and so on and so forth. And I just gather them together and all that.
Wow. Pastor Ituah, would you consider remarrying? Or marrying again?
Not at the moment.
Okay.
Not at the moment.
Okay, we're going to end on a light note. You're over 60 and you look so young and handsome and fresh. What's the secret?
Thank you very much for the compliment. No secret other than I just look for peace of mind. I look for peace of mind. And I'm not a food person. I eat lightly.
Okay.
I do small exercises. I don't even do major exercises. But I look for peace of mind. I mind my business. I have friends. I laugh a lot. I crack jokes. And God, I think, has been gracious to me.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing your experience. I'm sure people watching will be so blessed because we've talked about ministry, we've talked about government, we've talked about personal challenges, and above all, how God has seen you through and continues to see you through. Pastor Ituah, you're a very busy man, but you made time to come and share your story. I'm so grateful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and I've been blessed.
So this is where we round off today's edition of Colors of Life. Remember to follow us on social media. Please share this video. I'm sure it will be a blessing to so many people. This is the Colors of Life show where we seek to know Christ and to make him known.